What happened to my scene? There it is. Hello, everybody. I was waiting for the auto switch scene thing to happen. Hello, welcome to this live stream. Today, I'm very excited because I have a very special guest, someone who uh, started the content creation journey, YouTube journey, shortly after I did. So both of us have been doing it for years. He has been on this channel I don't know, several times, and it's been interesting because both of us are content creators. We're doing it very differently, and so it's always great to check in. Um, and today we're mostly going to be talking about Instagram because I have all of the questions, but we're also just going to be talking about I think every content creator, no matter where you call home, creates on multiple platforms. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my friend James. Yay!
Hi, Heather, and everyone in the
Hello, how are
chat. Oh my
you?
gosh. I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me. You know what? When you were doing your little intro, it kind of reminded me of like when you have like a talk show host and they're on multiple seasons and then they bring back like that celebrity friend every time. I'm not a celebrity, but I'm just saying, like that recurring guest. So I'm honored to be here. I'm super excited to talk about Instagram because I feel like that's not something we've ever really talked about on this
Yeah,
platform before, really, because we started more on YouTube.
yeah. And I'll tell you the reason why I thought about it is because in the back of my head, I've had this like itch to do more content that's like for a local audience. And just from my perspective, I feel like Instagram is the better platform to do that. But I also want to confirm with you.
No, that's
So,
exactly. Yeah, we're going to probably get right into that later on, but definitely hit
yeah.
the nail on the head in terms of the audience you're trying to reach for sure.
Okay, cool. So, before we jump in, for anyone who doesn't know who you are,
Sure.
can you tell them who are you? Talk about your content creation journey a little bit and where can people find you?
Sure.
Wait,
So
hold on.
our okay,
Hold
no
on one
worries.
second. This is supposed to be you and it's not. There you go.
Oh, it's just all me. So my name is James. I started out content creating, like Heather mentioned, on a YouTube channel called James and Mark, and eventually we established a brand known for eating. It started out as like a mukbang, which is like the broadcast where you eat food and have a dialogue. And over the years, it's evolved where we've started to do more let's go out and film ourselves when we're at a restaurant and filming little snippets here and there. So James and Mark on YouTube, James Van Lay on Instagram. We can get into how we need to rebrand that at some point, but essentially it's content that I do with my husband where we go out, try food, film our reaction, and then that's the content we're producing these days. So like I mentioned, we started out on YouTube, and then more recently our Instagram has picked up quite a bit, more so because we've been focusing more here local in Orange County, which is in Southern California. So that's kind of been our journey these days. So yeah, as Heather's pulling this up, a lot of these are lots of spots here in Southern California. We've been trying to do more Orange County because that's where we got more traction. And then more recently, we've been peppering in a little bit more. Here's what we're cooking at home, or here's a fun recipe, or here's like a 20-second hack that you should know about. Sometimes they go well, sometimes they don't. But yeah, that's pretty much our content these days is just food and how we interact with food and how it percolates in all aspects of our life.
Yeah. Can I play one of these?
Yeah, sure.
This one
You know
says,
what? That one's a good one. Yeah.
okay, cool. Let's play this one.
We need to tell you about this new Korean restaurant, and word is getting out about it quick. We're at Dawa Kitchen in Garden Grove serving up delicious Korean food. We started off with our beef belly stone pot. Each bite kept layering on flavor after flavor. The garlic suyuk is a 10-hour sous vide pork belly in a beef bone broth, and it was amazingly succulent and melted in our mouths. The army ramen definitely warmed the soul, and the portion size is perfect for 2 people. But the buzz around this place is definitely the pork katsu. I mean, look at how
Wow, look at
massive
that
this
thing.
thing is. I'd even trim it. Perfectly crispy, it's the best bite once you dip it into the perfectly seasoned curry. Follow for more. We need to tell you about
Boom.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, okay, you've always been food focused. And like you said, we start on YouTube and we've gone all kinds of ways and tried all kinds of content.
Mhm.
when it comes to Instagram, I want to get into the nitty gritty because I feel like short form vertical is so different from just it's different for me. It's different from, I think in the grand scheme of content creation, which isn't that long, but I still think it's pretty new.
Yeah.
I think it's still like figuring itself out. I also have never downloaded TikTok, so like maybe this is different for you. So I'm like aware that maybe I'm not in the know when it comes to, the trends and stuff. But I want to ask you, like, how much how different is it to create like long form versus short form? Do you find it harder? Do you find it easier? Does it take the same amount of work even though it's significantly shorter? Things like that.
Yeah. Definitely different. I think the best analogy I can use, I don't know if you've ever driven like a Tesla, but like when you drive a normal car and then you start driving a Tesla, it's like you're still getting to your destination, but the way that you go about it is totally different. I think starting out on YouTube and creating long form content, it was a great way to build like the fundamentals on like storytelling, but then at the same time it's like editing a 20-minute video is drastically different than editing like that video was a 30-second video. And I can tell you, like, to do a 20-minute vlog mukbang video, that probably took me 3 hours over the course of 2 to 3 days. Doing short form content, doing the shoot is pretty quick because I do everything on my phone. We
So
bring
you
a little light, if that,
Okay.
and getting the content is really quick. And then in terms of editing, like I can edit the video on our car ride home.
Oh
Um, I
wow.
might need
Okay.
to I might need to like hop on a computer to do like the voiceover, but everything is on the phone, and which has changed my workflow dramatically. I think at a certain point with YouTube, when I was kind of ending my long form type of content, it was because I felt like it was taking me forever to just
Yeah.
put out a video, right? And I'm sure you can attest to that. It's difficult, it's challenging,
Yeah.
and I think it was just this style of video. Even though I wasn't a fan of it, I remember I was very resistant to like the vertical whatever. I did not like it, and then I felt like, okay, well, I'm seeing a lot of my peers and other content creators like embracing it, and I was like, well, let me see if I can do it. And it ended up being more conducive to like the way we wanted to integrate like content creation with our ongoing lifestyle. I remember times when
Right.
we would film at a restaurant. You have to call the owner, you have to bring in your big lights, you have to mic up, you have to bring your tripod with your camera, and you still deliver a great content. But I just remember feeling like, oh, it took away the fun and joy of
Yeah.
eating, right? And
Yeah.
so when I realized, hey, I can still produce the content I want but in a less invasive manner, I started feeling like, wow, like there's a lot of opportunity for me to still deliver value but not feel like it's taking over like all of our meals, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
that was like the main catalyst for me to like kind of transition over. And once we started seeing more traction with it, it started getting like really exciting to figure out, well, how am I gonna keep someone watching for 20 seconds, whereas before the whole goal was how do I get them to watch a whole 20-minute video? Those are two very different
Yeah.
challenges at hand, right? Like there's different strategies and techniques. In that video that you just were able to show, me and Mark, we sit down and we have to go through like, what are we going to show in that first 2 seconds? Because if we don't get them in those first 2 seconds, they're going to swipe. And for us, it was like, oh, it's easy. You just show them the largest slab of meat known to man and me biting it. And then, there's other tricks like at the very end of the video, it looped again so people don't realize, hey, they're listening to it again and
Yeah,
you're going to
it
get more
started
watch
over.
time. Exactly. So there's a lot of those things where I felt like I had to relearn it,
Yeah.
because long form taught me, certain things, and then now transitioning to um, this environment, like with the shorter content, it's given me another set of skills. To be honest, like right now, I'm trying to edit my vlog when we went to South Africa. I went last July. It's now almost March, and I've only released one vlog from that because I have all these like great vistas and animals and all these shots and little anecdotes and all that, and it's just taking me forever to edit. And so that's why
Sure.
I think I've also kind of moved away from that because it just wasn't working for me right now.
Yeah. So, okay, let me so say you're going to a restaurant tomorrow. How much prep are you doing?
Usually what we'll do is we'll at least check out their Instagram to see what other
To
people have
order?
filmed because we don't want to be just like a carbon copy of what's being featured. So we'll probably like about 30 minutes of research just to understand like what food is available there. And then as far as like the actual filming, that takes about an hour. So most cases, yeah, our food is probably not as hot as it should be because we're like getting all the shots, we're taking pictures for the cover
Sure.
photo, we're doing all the different shots, like eating, and then presenting the food. So that's probably like another hour. And then, yeah, for editing, probably an hour and a half to two. So each of those shorts probably take around 3 hours total. Whereas long form content, I'd say 6 to 9 hours probably.
Yeah. So, do you have the voiceover in your head, or like do you storyboard before you go? Do you know, like, I mean, I think because you've done it like
Mhm.
so much, I don't want to say it's like a template, but it's like there is almost a template because you're going to a different restaurant and you kind of have that same, like, you know, show this shot, right? Or not. Is it different for every
Yeah,
place, or,
I'd say
you
for
know?
like 90% of the time, we just know going in, like once we have that dialogue with the restaurant and like what we're featuring, we kind of determine the hook as we experience it. Because sometimes the hook's not immediately clear. In the example of the big piece of meat, we knew that going in, but later on it might change to something else after we realize, oh, this is very interesting. We need to talk about this. So I have a video coming out today actually. And originally it was just going to be like, here's a pizza place. Great, and then we realized, well, a lot of people make videos on Pizza Place. So let's start with some kind of hook that will get people either wanting to watch all the way through to hear more about our opinion or get them to want to comment. And so the video is going to start off with pineapples don't belong on pizza. Like that's going to be the oh, and then you're going to have a reaction. Either you're going to
Yeah,
like be like, "Oh, no, yeah, I agree. I'm going to say
you
something,"
have an
or
opinion.
"No,
Yeah.
that's stupid. Like I'm going to, counterbalance that." That wasn't our original plan going into the place. Like we just thought of it as a pizza spot, right? But then once we saw something on the menu, we could kind of tweak it to make it a little controversial. Then we realized that's going to be the hook, and then we'll still showcase the restaurant because that's what we're there to do. But we realized like that would be the way we would draw people in is to have some kind of visual hook. We're going to show the pineapple on the pizza. We're going to have the voiceover be about the pizza, and then see where that goes from there.
So you said that you could, if you wanted, edit everything on your phone, like on the way home. What are you using to edit?
I'm using CapCut. Prior to this was it's been about a year. I was actually on a trip with a bunch of content creators at like on a Disney cruise, and I was like looking at all of them, and they were all pushing out content as we were on the boat, right? And I was like waiting to get all of it, and then I was going to go home and put it on Premiere Pro, and then use my dabbing sound and like do all that, and then I realized, oh gosh, like I guess I was relatively speaking, I was the older one in the group. So I was like, well, I can kind of hang with these like 20-year-olds doing the other stuff. So that's when I started learning how to do it. So I remember being like getting motion sickness in my bed as I was editing the first video. And I was like, I have to learn it because it's the same thing that you taught me when we made our first YouTube video. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like being on camera. I
Right.
don't like my voice. But I had to keep doing it. And then once I realized that there was a rhythm and there was like a science behind it, and I knew what worked, what didn't work, it made it more fun. And then, yeah, it's been just very convenient for me to just be able to edit when I have a lot of downtime. Like, I edited a bunch of videos on our way to South Africa last year just because I had a
Just on your
stockpile of them. So I
phone.
was editing them, right? So it
That's
was just very,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy how much you can do on your phone. And sometimes we'll even go to these restaurants that have asked us to come out and they're kind of like looking for like the
The huge setup.
stabilizer and the mic and all that. And I'm
Sure.
like, nope,
Yeah.
it's all here. And I'm able to do everything on here. And, they're surprised by that. But that's
So
just the
that was my
beauty of
next
it.
question. Like, if I'm in the same restaurant as you, am I going to be able to tell just by looking at you guys? Like, oh, those are, they're making a thing right now.
I think to a degree, in most cases, we try not to like be as invasive. Like, so if it's a low light situation, yeah, we might have that little thing that you
Right.
hold that does extra light. But outside of that, we really try not to disrupt other customers because I know they go out and they don't want to be interrupted. But I'd probably say it's half and half. I know the most recent one we went to, it was probably because the amount of food we had for two people was just
A lot.
like insane. So
Yeah.
like we're there and we're like filming everything, but in other cases, like we try to keep to ourselves.
Yeah. Can you chime in about like posting time or frequency of posts? Does this matter?
Yeah. So for me, the rhythm has been, a lot of the social media like principles is it's cliche, but I'd say consistency is key, but it's consistency to what you can do. So right
Right.
now what I can do is daily. So I try to stick to daily, but I'm not doing reels every day anymore. I used to do reels every day and that helped us grow pretty much overnight, and then I realized, then the algorithm started changing a little bit, so reels were not getting pushed as much. So then we've been peppering in some carousels, some static posts which are doing well again. So for me personally, I've been doing it daily. I think there was a second part to that question too, right?
Uh like
I forget.
frequency.
Frequency and
Um oh,
brain
time.
fart. Oh, time. For me, I like to post pretty much right after work. So if, today I'm planning to post like around 5 or 6 because the majority of people on Instagram, when I look at my analytics, they're all Pacific time. We have a handful of people that are Eastern time, but I still want to capture them in that first hour of the video because, again, I have that feeling of if the video does well in the first hour, just like
It'll
YouTube,
help.
it gets pushed out more. It helps
Sure.
more, right? So I'm trying to maximize it. I'm not posting at 2 in the morning, but I'll post at 6 o'clock because I know people are getting off work. They're probably scrolling through their phone before dinner, or they're trying to look at like places to eat for dinner, which we've been able to recommend spots, and then we're still capturing Eastern time folks that might follow us as well. So our sweet spot has been around like 6 o'clock, 6:30
Okay.
Pacific time.
Um
Yeah.
are hashtags dead?
To me, no. If anything, we took over a hashtag called OC Restaurants.
Oh wow,
So
that's
if
a
you
big one.
click on, yeah, you would think so, right? And then when we click on it, it's weird, but it's just mine and Mark's face, like the
Oh
first nine.
wow, how funny.
And we started like we kind of got on it a little bit earlier than when it started picking up traction. So I think when we first started using that hashtag, it was around like the way they categorized it back then, like 30,000 uses, and now it's up to 60,000. But I think because we've used it, and I don't know if they've known that we actually are recommending OC restaurants. We're not just tacking OC restaurants and we go somewhere else. It's actually matching the content. We
Sure.
feel like it's helped like boosting every time we post because we're usually prominently featured on there.
Yeah. So you still use hashtags. I saw a thing that
Very
was like
much
no one
so,
uses
yeah.
hashtags anymore. Okay, cool.
I use hashtags for reels, and again, I don't know if it truly works or not, but there's something called topics that I make sure we
Yeah.
use in every single reel that we put out. And for us, there's 3 or 4 that we always use. So restaurants is usually one because that's obvious, and then depending on what we're eating, so if it's more meat based, if it's more seafood based, then we'll use that. And then like a tertiary one would be like rice and pasta or something, right? So we always make sure we use all of that as well.
Do you think about or factor in um the idea that people, especially on Instagram, might have a tendency to watch with the sound off?
Yeah. So when I first started making videos, I was not a big like caption type person. Like I was like, that's an extra layer of work. I have no idea if this is adding additional value and whatnot. And then I had that realization one night. Mark's like a light sleeper. So he actually asked me, can you turn off your sound? And then I'm like watching things in the dark. And I remember scrolling past through ones that didn't have any text. And so then I realized, well, if my own viewing habits is to
Yep.
swipe, then I need to change it up. And so every video I have now, there's some form of text visual interest on the screen because I know people's viewing habits are you can't always have the sound on, so you need to have some other way to engage. And so I use the auto caption feature in CapCut, which is pretty dynamic. And I think previously I was doing it the old school ways, but there's so many automation to like make
Yeah.
those things happen. So that extra 5 minutes could make the difference between a video getting like 10,000 views versus 100,000 views these days.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Do you think about like new versus returning subscribers and like what does that look like? Because for me, I don't know. My impression is that short form content tends to um, skew skew a lot towards new people. I don't
Hmm.
know why I think that. I think because like YouTube Shorts is like still relatively new, and that's where my perspective comes from. But I don't know.
Sure.
Like, do you get a lot of returning people? Like people have been following you for a long time.
Yeah, I'm noticing, especially like in the comments, that we're getting repeat commenters and people that are liking it consistently. And I think it's because we've basically, where people might have used Yelp in the past, now they're just going to our feed and saying,
That's
"Hey, what are James and
interesting.
Mark eating lately?" And now I want to just scroll through and bookmark some of their spots. And so we've gotten feedback directly from our followers saying, "Hey, I really like that you did this video and here's a recommendation." And so we're seeing repeat probably on there right now more than we do on YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Do you ever go live on Instagram?
So we've gone live like a handful of times, and that's really the school of thought in going on live was that all the platforms love when you use all their features.
Sure.
But right? Isn't that like I feel like it's the same thing when you rub the slot machine and you hope something happens, but we really don't know, right? But we just do it anyways. So yeah, we went on live a few times, but it just wasn't native to me. Like, so I just haven't really integrated that much. I think if anything, one time we filmed our normal like reel and then we decided to go live after so that people could see um kind of behind the scenes after we were done eating. And then we did that once or twice and just never dabbled in that again.
Okay. Um, what do you think? Like, how would you describe what a successful Instagram post is, or real post? Whatever, like content on Instagram. What makes it a successful post?
When I first started, obviously the first thing that they like throw in your face is the number of views, right? And so you're always chasing views. But recently, I've been very fascinated in seeing how often things are being shared. If anything, I'm surprised. Some of our videos have more shares than they do have likes. Like people are taking the time to actually share it with their friends and family.
Mm,
And so I've been actually using that as like a major indicator of if a video is successful because it takes some time to like click that button and then also put it in and put yourself out there saying, hey, you should watch this.
yeah,
And so out of
sure.
the available metrics they have on Instagram, like the shares have been very interesting for us to kind of see um, and assess what makes this shareable. We actually yesterday we went to a movie. Right before the movie, I think the video was at like 80,000, and then we views, and then right after we came out, and it was at 160, and the shares of that video also like exponentially increased. And I was thinking to myself, like, what made it so interesting? And it goes back to the fundamental of having like that hook in the first 2 or 3 seconds. So for that video, the hook was we found a Korean barbecue place that serves tortillas. And at that point, we've heard of the concept, but we've never seen an actual restaurant do that. And we knew that that was going to be like something that would be very interesting. So we made that the hook, and then sure enough, it didn't go crazy like the first probably week or two. And what I've really liked about Reels is before I felt like Reels was okay, you have this lifespan and then it's done. With Reels lately, they've kind of been like, oh, actually, this is starting to get more shares and we're going to push it out even more. So videos that you thought were dead at one point still have an opportunity to like blossom and butterfly or whatever you want to call it. And so that's also been a, a motivating factor to keep like creating content because it might not perform as well at the beginning, but then you might see, it does well later on.
So you said reels. Is that true for shorts?
Shorts, yes. There was a short where I uploaded a short and it was like 30 views and that was like 4 hours. And I was like this close to deleting it, and I was just like, I'm just gonna leave it there. And
Yeah.
then and then I went to bed, whatever. The whole day passed. I went to bed and then I woke up and then it was up to 6,000.
Oh wow.
And I don't know what like
Yeah.
really made it get pushed, but I just remember like don't touch it. It's performing the way it's performing, and maybe it'll have an increase later. But I on all the platforms actually I've experienced where something that might not start out as strong could pick up traction later on.
Interesting. Um, okay, so before I go into this question, I wanted to ask you like how would you describe the difference between TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube when it comes to short form vertical?
Short form vertical. Um,
So like I mean
so
anything from I think one time we talked about like on YouTube, it's more of a global audience, so they might not be interested necessarily in like an OC restaurant, but they probably might be interested in like a Costco tip or something because
sure.
there's Costco's everywhere. So and then like I said, I don't know anything about TikTok, but like what are those differences when it comes to you're uploading the same type of content, but it's on different platforms, which I think like has different audiences.
Yeah. What I would say is like you mentioned this at the top of the hour is that Instagram, I think their algorithm favors like locality. Like our audience, I feel like is very local to where we're posting the content. And it wasn't until we decided, hey, let's kind of take a break from featuring all these other cool places that we go to and really just focus on Orange County, specifically like Korean and Vietnamese food, which is me and Mark's background. And that's when we started seeing more traction and the videos getting pushed out more because they knew, hey, these guys have an authority in Orange County. So on Instagram, yes, let's push them out because that's the content that the people in Orange County want to watch. They want to know that they can go to that restaurant versus someone on YouTube living in, another part of the world has no interest in coming to America to try this
Sure,
dish. So they're not pushing that out as much. So from where we're like the target audience we're trying to reach, I think right now Instagram is doing us the most justice. I think
sure,
YouTube is great for reaching like a global audience, and so that's why I think I talked to you about this earlier. I might create the same exact content and post it on all three platforms, and they'll all perform very differently based on a variety of factors. But more recently, we've been repurposing our Instagram content to make it less about the location and more about this is the cool thing or this
the
is
idea
the
of
neat thing
food or
about it.
something,
So
right?
going back to the Korean barbecue example, on Instagram, it was like, you go to Linwood, this is where the tortillas are, the meat's great, blah, blah, blah. For the short YouTube video, we cut out the Korean barbecue aspect because people can watch a bunch of Korean barbecue videos and not care. Let's just focus on this place serves tortillas. How cool is that? So the
Yeah,
video, while I edited the Instagram one and then I basically did a copy of it and then I just spliced out all the other stuff where I'm like, if I was a global audience, what do I not care about? Let's start deleting that because that's the stuff that's going to make people
interesting.
swipe away.
Yeah,
So that was kind of that approach. For TikTok, I feel like they like when people binge watch all your stuff. So I really haven't figured out that, and I don't know if I want to figure that out yet. But our videos are just a bunch of restaurant videos in Orange County again, and so we have a small group of people that I feel like follow us because they're not using Reels, but they're using TikTok and they're in this area. But it
hmm
hasn't grown to the point where I'm dedicating more effort to like figure out how to optimize it better on there than I am on the other two platforms.
yeah. Uh, do you worry about um, competition in terms of being a foodie creator in the OC? Like, is that something that you worry about, or because when I hear creators talk about Instagram, I hear the words competition a lot, and I hear the word algorithm a lot.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know how much you just like we found a thing that's working and we're having a lot of fun and like you it seems like you're in this like momentum, so
Hmm.
like just keep going. But how much if at all do you think about like competition in the algorithm and like maybe I don't know having to switch things up based on what people are doing?
Oh yeah, I think we think about it all the time, and it's helpful because the content we create, it's not just me, it's me and Mark. So a
Right.
lot of times we kind of assess like, oh, there's a content creator that's going out to this area or this restaurant that we've not been to, um, and not feeling like we're copying them, but hey, they got a lot of traction from it, so we should probably
Check it
go
out.
check it out and do our take on it. So from that lens, for sure, we always keep our minds open to like what are people doing, what is it that we can do, and what's the spin that we could put on it, because our perspective is very different, and people follow us because they either trust our tastes, they know us, or we present it in a format that they enjoy. So that's why we always feel like competition is actually great. It's an ability for you to kind of say, what is the value you're going to add, even though it's the same exact restaurant. How are you going to spin it in a way where someone's going to watch your video over someone else's? And hopefully, that same person will watch all the videos. That's
Right.
great. That's great for the business. That's great for all the content creators. But we don't ever feel like, oh,
They're
we shouldn't
taken
be doing it
away.
because someone's, yeah, we're taking it away from someone. I do have to say though, now that we're kind of in this space and we're getting invited to more things, it's interesting to go to these things and you don't know them, but you know them because you see their content all
Yeah.
the time, and then that they know you too, but no one says anything. Well, usually I'm the guy that says, "Oh my god, hey!" But then I'm like, "You could have said hi too." But that's a different talk.
That's funny. Um, okay, so do you it are you getting monetized on YouTube or on Instagram? Is it the same
Not
as
on
like YouTube?
It's very different. It's a very different model, and the model that we created is just separate from Instagram. So I don't think I've ever made a penny off of
Oh,
Instagram, like
I
ever.
see.
Maybe when they used to do like meta payments for a very brief time, and then they took that away probably a month or two after. But in full transparency, some of the content we create is actually collaborations with the restaurants. So they're
Sure.
inviting us to come out to try their food, and then on top of that, there's a fee that we're able to charge to be able to film the content. So it's kind of like both, but we're peppering in, because when we started, we obviously weren't doing that. But then once
Yeah.
we realized the amount of time it was taking, the editing, and then
Yeah.
putting our brand behind it too, then we realized, oh, that's the part that we can monetize. And businesses
That's the
have been
value.
receptive because there's been some videos that took off, and then we drive by the restaurant and you see lines out the door, and I'm just like, and the restaurant owners will come back and give us that direct feedback saying, your video, people will actually show us the video as to why they came to this
Oh,
restaurant.
that's crazy.
And so there's that's that direct linkage. Before I was just like, who knows if so and so went to
Yeah.
whatever, and
But
now
you
it's just
actually
because
have
we're,
the
yeah,
feedback.
it's because it's so local. And like the thing that we like, the funniest thing that happens is like when one of our friends, they're at lunch and then their coworker shows them, hey, let's go here, and it's like our friend, and they're like, hey, those are actually my friends. That's
Yeah.
when we started hearing that more of us, or more of our content, was getting out locally here.
Yeah. So, did you I can't remember when this happened. Like obviously we've been friends since college, but I
Hmm.
can't remember when you made the shift from like mukbang cooking at home to restaurants. Was that like a we just tried going to this restaurant and then all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, this is cool. Let's go to
No,
more and like create more of this content."
yeah, that's a great question. I feel like, so definitely during COVID, the height of what we were doing during COVID was YouTube lives, because everyone was stuck at home.
Yeah, sure.
It was fine being on a live stream for 3 hours and having a bunch of drinks on a Monday night because everyone else was at home. So that was definitely 2020, 2021. And then we came out of 2022 and we started trying to do back the long form content. And that was around the same time there was more traction with all these short form content. I think I remember even talking to you about, should we be like creating shorts? And I had that whole dialogue. And then um, in terms of when we like hunkered down, it might have been around the time after, like late last year, around this time, when I was like, you know what? I keep posting everything. Like I'm posting, dog content, I'm posting personal life content, I'm posting photos of like food and all that. And then I realized, let me just try to do one thing and see what happens. And then that, when I started seeing momentum, that's kind of when I started feeling like, let me go more all in on this idea and see how far it takes us.
Yeah. That's
So it's probably
crazy.
been about a year.
Yeah. Um talk to me about stories. Is there a strategy here?
There definitely is a strategy that I'm still trying to figure out to this day. It's
Okay.
very frustrating because, if I post a story, I don't know if you've had this experience, but if you post one story per day, I'm going to get 1,600 views on that story. But if for some reason I feel like inclined to do two stories, I'm going to get like 400 and 300. So there's something weird about the way it works, where if you post less, it pushes you like at the top of people's, when you can click on
Yeah,
stories
like the
versus if you
circles
post a
first.
bunch.
Right.
Yeah, you get very little. And so like yesterday I went to something, we have a partnership with like a movie theater, and they're like, yeah, post stories before. And I was like, well, if I really want to promote you guys better, I should only post one versus like a bunch about my whole experience, even though the whole experience is what I really want people to see. But I'm like, maybe it's better just to show the story, and then they're going to see the whole experience on the reel when I post
On
the
the
reel.
post, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know, stories, I can't tell if it's really helped us grow. I think stories for me is like, okay, this is a really cute selfie or a cute picture of me and Mark that doesn't have to do with our in feed. So I'm going to post it there. So it's kind of like, I use it as that, where I don't want it to clutter the focus of what my
The
feed
grid.
is.
Sure.
Grid, exactly. So then I
Yeah.
post it on stories, and then it's going to go away in 24 hours. So that's how I've been using it more. I've also, the other strategy is I never just do like just a story. I always do a story that has some kind of call to action. So
Yep,
I don't
you're
know if you've
so good
noticed,
at
but
that, man.
I always do a poll, even if the poll is stupid, I'll be like, it could be a yes or no
Something
question.
to interact
And
with.
it's better than if I don't do anything. And I've noticed like the difference between having something there or not. There's that slider one, and then there's also the quiz. So I always like integrating those as just to make the story more interesting and dynamic.
Yeah. It's funny because like one thing that Tom and I were talking about on the couples table recently was like how on Instagram and even with YouTube shorts, it's like so much of it is just scrolling and
Mhm.
versus on YouTube, like even when you are scrolling through your home feed, you still have to choose whether to actually watch that video. And so like I feel like with Instagram stories, it's like the closest thing you get to the viewer having the power of choice of like I choose to watch this person and this person versus like I'm just scrolling and I don't know what I'm gonna get. But I feel
Mhm.
like it's different with you because you kind of really cracked a code of like something that works for the platform of Instagram, the your audience, and then like what you like to do also, and I think that's an awesome thing. For me, I'm at the point where it's like, well, even Tom and I, it's like, if we were to say which platform is our home, it would still be YouTube, and Instagram is more of like a supplement. What would
Mhm.
you say is your home? Like if someone was like, what kind of content creator are you or whatever? Is that hard to say?
It is hard to say. I mean, it's that feeling of like, what's a good analogy? But like, I started off on YouTube. I'll never
Yeah,
forget
sure.
what I did on YouTube. I don't think I would be able to do what I'm doing now without the fundamentals of YouTube. But as far as like the amount of time I'm spending on the platform, definitely Instagram. However, like for instance, recently we just did a live stream on YouTube, and it was for a fundraiser for Mark's work. And I was just like, oh well, it's great because we do the fundraiser every year, but we've been MIA since July. Like we ended our live stream. We used to do 2 live streams a week,
I know.
and then we cut it cold turkey. And I was like, well, it seems kind of weird to go back and then ask for donations to help support a cause. And sure enough, our community showed up for us. And I'm like, I don't know if I have that same thing with Instagram, because Instagram's a little bit more like a little bit transactional, because yeah, the videos we're putting out there is here's a restaurant, here's what you should order, follow us for more. What we were putting out on YouTube was like, I don't know, there's videos of me crying, there's video of
Hang
me
out
hugging
with
my
you.
dog, there's our
Yeah.
wedding. Like it's just more, there's like more of that intimate side that I don't think we've been using the Instagram platform to do. So even the community has been kind of
Mm,
is different too. And the connection I have
interesting.
with both. Um, yeah, I think they're different, I'd say, for
Yeah.
sure.
Can you talk a little bit about well yeah, let's switch to YouTube. So can you talk a little bit about shorts and whether or not it has helped your channel grow?
It
What's
definitely
your
helped my channel.
perspective here?
Well, I guess grow is, it depends on what you mean by grow. Well, I guess it did help us grow in all facets, because like I said, in July of last year, we stopped our live stream, which was our consistent way of putting out content on YouTube. And since we stopped that, we were like, well, we need to supplement with something so that we don't just completely go dark. So we started doing YouTube Shorts, and I'd say probably in the last few months, I think last year we were somewhere around like 28,000 subscribers. We're up to like 41,000, just purely posting shorts, not really any long form content. And I think some of those videos, it's like they're probably not the most quality videos, but that people are still clicking on that subscribe button after they watch the video. And I don't know
Right.
if they're really returning. I don't know if they even care about food. I think some of the videos that went viral are for very interesting reasons, not related to food at all. And then it
Right.
kind of just makes me think like, yeah, like who's subscribing to this and why would they come back? Because we're not creating that type of content, but it's definitely grown. Our shorts surprisingly have gotten monetized, and some of them have been making probably a little bit more than some of our long form content, because when you factor in the number of
Interesting.
people that are watching the shorts relative to the number that are watching like the long form, they kind of balance out in terms of what they're paying out these days. So it's still been
Really?
beneficial. Yeah, there's been a couple videos, but granted, it's like we're not making videos that generate 2 million views all the time. But when we
Right.
do, it basically can be the
Even out.
equivalent of like a moderately good video on our channel that's been on there for like 10 years.
Oh, how
So,
interesting.
yeah.
So, what do you think is the most fun part of the process? What's your favorite part?
I this is so like vain for me to say, but I love when we go out and someone comes up to us and says, "Oh my god, you guys are so and so. I saw your video and your food was
Yeah,
good.
we
Like
love
the
that
food was
too.
good." Or we're at the same restaurant. Like I just love feeling like we're adding some kind of purpose to like putting out videos. It's like, yeah, I'm hoping it's entertaining, but like, I know how happy I am after a really great meal. And so when I know that there's some part of us being involved in that, that
Yeah.
brings so much joy to me. In addition to like some of these restaurants, they don't know anything about social media, which is, where we kind of come in and say, hey, we're happy to like just showcase whatever we can. Sometimes there's sometimes it's an actual collab, sometimes we're just there and we want to film it anyways. And then when we see what it can do for the restaurant, it just makes me feel very proud that we are able to have that kind of influence, because I think
You're the
before,
gateway. Yeah.
yeah, like we're exposing a lot of these restaurants that might not have the reach currently with their own. And I find that a struggle too. Like sometimes people will be like, shouldn't my Instagram at work be like at 50,000? And I'm like, well, the message is totally different and the
Yeah.
approach is totally different and the value
Yeah.
add is totally different. So I can't grow this over what I'm doing here. It's totally a different ballpark. So
Yeah. Because there's a
I'd
trust
say that.
between
Yeah.
like you guys,
Yes. Yeah, for
versus like
sure.
a commercial from a business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I guess the other part is just the constant learning. I think sometimes that could burn out people because things change all the time. Like I think there was one point where I was like, "Oh, we're making traction on TikTok," and then the next day everyone has TikTok videos about how everything changed, and then we felt deflated after that. And then you start like exploring other avenues. But I personally like learning a lot, and
Yeah.
so having
It's a
doing
challenge.
short form has been really a challenge, because just because you do short form on one and you're successful on that doesn't mean you're going to be successful across all three. Like I have a friend that started short form because, yeah, we encouraged him like do short form content, and their TikTok blew up like over 1 million subscribers. They were on Good Morning America. They got some
Holy
brand
crap.
sponsorships. But then if they put the same videos on YouTube, like no one cares. Like
Wow.
it's just like everyone's experience is very different. And so I think that's probably just a separate thing later on, is like I think as I got like further in my journey, I felt like less like wanting to compare ourselves to others, which is that could be fatal to like content creators, right? Like when you see someone having
Oh, hell
blah blah
yeah.
blah, and then you're like, well, I
Totally.
want that, and then you can't, and then you chase it, and then you don't get it. And then I think once we found our own rhythm, like, hey, we're eating,
Yeah,
we're meeting
you're
people,
having
we're getting paid here
living
and
your
there.
best
It's
life over there. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not gaining weight. I'm at my skinniest. Like that's great. Like
Which
what
is
else
crazy,
can you
by the
ask
way,
for?
with all the
Yeah, I know.
food that
People always ask that. That could be another topic, but it's because we don't eat all the food that's on there. We take it to go. But people are like, "Do you eat all six dishes?" I was like, "There's no way I could eat all of that. That's crazy."
That's funny. Um, what do you think about the word influencer?
Oh, gosh, I feel like there's a
How do you introduce yourself when someone's like, "What do you do?"
That's a great question. I usually say I usually say this. Yeah, I guess I don't say I'm an influencer. I say, I make Instagram videos or I make content. I'm a content creator. Probably content creator is probably what I use more than influencer. Because I think when you say influencer, that almost implies that your content actually influences people to like do whatever. And I'm like, I don't have like clear metrics. I have like anecdotes here and there, but I ain't going around saying like everyone's eating at that restaurant because of me. But I know I could say I'm a content creator because there's no argument on that. Like I'm creating content. So that's
Yeah.
why I probably like I say that more than anything. But I think overall, these days there's like a negative connotation about it, which I think isn't justified, but I think a lot of times that comes from a place of just not being a content creator yourself. Like you have this imagery of what you think an influence could be, someone that's demanding, pushy, inconsiderate of people's space, wanting to get
Narcissistic,
a shot,
vain.
everything like
Yeah.
that. So innately that's going to, leave a sour taste in people's mouths, but that's probably also why I don't call myself influencer, because I know how people are receptive to that word.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be associated. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here. Do you
No,
notify
love it.
every restaurant before you go there?
No, we don't. Um
Because sometimes
Actually,
you're
yeah,
just
we
like,
don't.
hey, I want
Unless
to go over there, and you just go.
yeah, because the way we film is very not like it's not a spectacle. So we're not really doing anything where
People might
like
not be
back in
able
the
to
YouTube
tell.
days for sure. Back in the like you're bringing in your tripod, your
Yeah.
box lights, everything. Yeah, we would definitely get the permission, but now it's like I am no different than the other person over there
Yeah.
like taking pictures of their food. I'm just a little bit more movement. I don't do my voiceovers there, so it's not that disruptive. I'm not standing on chairs unless I'm working with a client, so it's like I'm very respectful about that because I just know we've actually gotten mad dogged at a couple people for like just doing our filming, and we weren't even doing anything. But I think it goes back to like what their perception of influencers were, and then Mark almost got into it with them. I was like, oh yeah, let's get into it, and then let me film that, and that might be that'll be a story.
um. So I think like one of this is like a tale as old as time for YouTube creators, but it's like people will start out, say doing product reviews. So here's like, here's this iPhone, it's super cool, and then all of a sudden you find yourself like this is the only thing that you can do now is like review the next iPhone, and then you start to get sponsorship. So like brands will pay you like review my thing, and then all of a sudden it's just like not fun anymore. Which is why I
Yeah.
asked you like, is there a difference between a restaurant actually reaching out to you to invite you over and create content versus like I just feel like eating here and I don't care who if we give them a notification or not, like we want to go there.
Mm.
Are there ever times where you go to a restaurant and you don't make any content, like or is it a missed opportunity to not?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I feel like when we have an arrangement, obviously we want to make sure we put our best foot forward for the client to capture their restaurant in the best way possible. We still hold ourselves to that standard when we are choosing optionally to go somewhere and film. And I guess there's just less pressure because they don't know why we're there. So I think naturally you're like, well, if they don't know we're there to film, then there's like less pressure to be like
There's no
perfect about it.
expectation. Yeah.
So exactly. So that's pretty much the key difference. We do try to, yeah, I guess, admittedly, it's been rare to have a meal where there isn't some form of like what content am I going to create out of this experience, because I think of it as when we eat, that's one form of content and I might not use it right away, I'm going to use it later on, and I can think clearly there's three things in my current gallery where those were not planned, but I'm like, well, when am I going to be in Beverly Hills to eat at this restaurant again? I'm
Right.
not, so I need to film it while I'm there. But we've we've done it in such a way, and I always do a pulse check with Mark too, just to make sure where
For
it
sure.
doesn't feel like it's overtaking just the meal itself.
Just
Like we've
yeah.
gotten it down to that point, whereas before it was too much, and then you just felt like that meal didn't even count as a meal because you were just stressed the entire time.
Yeah.
So um, but I get what you're saying in terms of like, I was worried about feeling like now all we're known for is food. And that's why I've taken liberty to, yes, 90% of our content is about food, but we've peppered in some other fun videos. I don't know if you were able to see some, but like Lunar New Year. I don't ever get to celebrate Lunar New Year in
Yeah.
a public format. And I was like, well, this year I can actually kind of do it because I have like a larger audience and not care about how the videos did. And then when I looked at how the videos did, they were performing on par with some of the food ones. And then I started thinking to myself, it's great because I think one thing we want to acknowledge is yes, we're focused on food, but I think even some conversation I've had with you, Heather, was just like James and Mark is a brand. It's hard to think about ourselves as a brand,
Right.
but we're just a brand. Like, let's just see what James and Mark would do in this situation. It doesn't have to be them eating something. It could be
Right.
them going to the movies, them going to Palm Springs and filming Tom's birthday. Like, it's just being able to just share that side too. I think that helps the balance. Like if we were doing full-time food content creation nonstop, of course, I think we would get burnt out. But that's why I've kind of given ourselves that space and liberty to say, you know what, I want to just create this and not care how it does. And it's not to help achieve any other end goal besides keeping me from wanting to
No
like not
metric.
make more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Make more videos on the stuff that we're focused on.
Yeah. So how would you say how would you say that you like do you still experiment? How often do you experiment? Do you like I think I've heard Tom say um this for sure can't go on the main channel. I have my second channel and that, I he says this all the time. I don't care about that
Yeah.
channel and not in terms of like, obviously like what goes on it and the people who are watching, but like there's just zero care in terms of growth metrics, blah blah blah. And there are definitely things that he takes a lot of pride in. Hey, I built this thing. It took freaking forever. It took a lot of effort. There's an audience here, blah blah. How much do you factor that in terms of like, okay, there has to be some kind of experimentation to not only like fulfill you creatively, but to stay relevant. Things are changing all the time, but you don't want to risk, I don't know, alienating, pushing away. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
There's definitely a balance to it. I think when I started out on YouTube, I mean, you saw my early YouTube videos. It was like K-pop
I'll
dance
never forget
reaction
your
video
first one.
here, mukbang video over here, going to my garden over here. Like it was just
Yeah.
everywhere. And I acknowledge that I can't say that that wasn't the right path for me because it kind of gave me that like ability to just, hey, what am I liking and what's going to stick for the
Yeah, you
long
have to
haul?
try. You have to
Obviously,
be in the
you have to.
sandbox. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel that same way right now with Instagram. We we started building a presence. So yeah, I started posting less about my personal stuff because what value are people going to get by knowing I got a promotion? Who cares? Go
Sure,
on
yeah.
LinkedIn, do that, like whatever. But once I started feeling like, okay, let me share more about the food, and then yeah, that's the brand that we're building. And then now I feel like I'm getting permission to share
Mm.
some other like aspects of my life where um I'm not shying away from I'm not second guessing myself like should I post this video about Mark
Oh,
bringing a bag of
okay.
rice into the
Yeah.
house? Like it's more like no, this is like another side that we want people to learn more about. And it actually brings back like this other like scare not scary but like I had to take a moment back where we were doing food content, and then last June we were in a OC Pride parade. So me and Mark posted a photo of us in our gay pride shirts, all that, and then we started getting a bunch of unfollows. And then at first I was very butthurt by that. I was like, well, that kind of sucks. And then it's like, did you guys not know we were even a couple in our videos? We didn't make that very clear in our videos, right? But then it also made me feel like, well, I'm actually still attracting the audience that I want watching us. Like, I don't want you to benefit
If
from knowing
you're
what
not
restaurants
cool
I
with
like
this,
if you
then
don't like
leave. Yeah.
me as a human being, right? Like, screw you. You go eat somewhere crappy with a 2-star rating on Yelp, whatever. So that's where I was like, I'm starting to feel like I can figure out what the balance is, where I'm not compromising what people are initially like followed us for, but I'm not also alienating that I still need a
Who
platform.
you
Like,
are. Yeah.
I am myself. The name, I couldn't change my name like to what we want it to be because it was taken, and so there's complications about whether I can even change the name or not. So I kept the name because I'm just too scared to like make
Mess with
something,
it. Yeah.
yeah, mess with it. So for me, that's why again I'm integrating stories where I can. I'm integrating like, hey, it might be a personal like thing, but I'm going to feature food in it, so that food is still there, but it's not the main character. So
Right.
that's been kind of the way I've been balancing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you guys have always done that where it is James and Mark. You know, it
Hmm.
just so happens. I mean, like it's very clear your passion for food, but that's always been there. And
Yeah,
that's not like a
yeah.
forced
Nothing's.
thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, have you ever tried recording with a camera and using that for short form?
Like actually, like tilting the camera, and so no, I actually we had a short form creator come to our place one time, and she showed us her workflow, and she had her big old camera, flipped it, and it had its own screen where you could see what it was seeing, and it was a totally different process. But I think for us, the reason why we haven't done that is because that's probably going to deter us from making more content.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
accessibility of having the cell phone and being able to do that has been great. We've done collabs with other creators, and not a knock on them, but their content is so polished that it almost feels like it's a commercial. And we've gotten feedback from other content creators that when they upgraded their camera and they stopped using their phone, that they started getting comments from their followers saying, "Oh, this looks too overproduced. Like I preferred the like shaky wobbly hands and maybe a occasional finger slip on the camera lens here and there." So when I heard that feedback, I was like, well, that's kind of where that's what I pride myself in, is like we want to present ourselves as being real, and this is our true experience and not being overproduced about it. And so that's probably why we haven't done the what the vertical. And then the vertical, then I would have to import it to my phone and then upload. Then I was like, that's an extra step. Like I'm barely doing it as it is. So anything that makes it more difficult, anyone that's watching and thinking about content creating, like make it the easiest way possible to start out with, and then obviously add layers till you hit
Sure.
your maximum, and then that'll keep you consistent. But if you make it like so daunting and so stressful, and there's a whole that's where I feel like I stopped making videos for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I we talk about this all the time. Like, you know, there's a McDonald's commercial that's just four creators eating their chicken McNuggets, but like I don't know if it's actually recorded with a phone, but it's
Yeah,
vertical content, you know, so it's made to
right.
look like it's user generated. And it's like, well, if the big guys are, you know, this is their Super Bowl commercial, then it's obviously working enough for them to, you know, to invest for their overproduced stuff to make it look like it's underproduced.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe we're at the top of the hour. That's crazy.
That hour went by like faster than any hour I've ever experienced. Like I just didn't realize how exciting this topic could potentially be. But it's always motivating to talk to like a fellow creator, and especially someone that I credit to like us getting started and like being experimental with all of this. So I mean, I'm always happy to be able to pop on
Yeah,
and just kind of share
thanks.
where we're at.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's really it's cool because like one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you specifically about this is because I definitely do feel like a boomer when it comes to short form vertical, where it's just like here's the new thing and I'm like I don't know, you know, like,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like okay, I I sound exactly like the person who is asking me how to do a YouTube video. Like I can hear it's that same
So
thing, and I'm like, okay, is it genuinely because I don't like it? Because I bet if you looked at my freaking Instagram activity, who the hell's over there scrolling through shorts? It's me, you know? So it's like obviously I enjoy it as a viewer. Um and I just, you know, I think I need like a I think I needed us to switch. You know, it's like, hey,
mm,
James, check out the world of YouTube. I needed you to
yeah,
be like, hey, check out shorts, check out this vertical thing.
yeah. Well, speaking of boomer, I look like I'm on 56 dial up. What's going on over here? I should have plugged in Ethernet cord at least. My goodness, how embarrassing. Uh,
Uh,
no, I had that same feeling when you first introduced YouTube to me, because when YouTube first came out, like that was like, ooh, like that's too much. And I just remember thinking to myself, don't hold myself back from whatever I think I cannot do. So I kind of relived that, like, well, back then, Heather would have just said, just try it and see. And if you like it, great. If you don't. So this is my advice. The advice you gave me, I'm echoing it back to you right now. Like, there's not a reason to not do it. I think it's good. You might walk away learning something that you're not necessarily going to use the platform, but it might be something thought provoking for something else that you're doing. But I
Yeah.
think it's just, it's helpful, and I think because we're going to hang out soon, maybe you kind of see some of the behind the scenes, and maybe that could be the
Oh hell yeah!
catalyst
I'm
of
gonna
like,
do a
you
vlog
know.
on your process. Well,
I
cause
don't know.
like
I'm gonna need a stabilizer like, because of where we're going, but
I
yeah, we'll see. This should be fun content.
yeah, like what I want to do is like kind of a version of what you guys do, but like there isn't one there isn't even one person who is like a Coachella Valley like local creator in terms of showcasing the businesses. And
Mm.
I feel like I do that unstrategically. And I was like, you know what? There like I'll post about a restaurant and then I'll see my friends and they'll be at that restaurant like the next week or two, you know? So I'm like, it's
Sure.
already happening. And I'm
Yeah.
just curious of, what if I put a little bit more effort here? And then, me, I've always been a small business advocate and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have the skill set. So like, why not try? It's
Mm-hmm.
funny that there isn't all the people that are making content about the experiences here and the restaurants here are just the businesses themselves, which is, it's only going
But
to go so far. Yeah.
not like the
Or
patron or customer.
people who vacation here. So they're here for a weekend and then they're gone, but I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I kind of want to make, for the 365 person who's a resident here, um, you know, we love trying new things and I post about it anyway. I'm just
Yeah. So what's
like it
stopping you then?
Well, see, that's why I just needed to talk to you. I don't really know. I think like I can't tell you how many would be reels live on here. Like so many of
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, Tom, like I'm walking in the restaurant, like I don't know, like
Yeah.
get me walking in and like here's the food and I don't know. I think like I think I'm in that I need to do a 10-day tackle. I need to get out of
Mm.
my own way because I feel like I have an ideal thing of what it looks like and it doesn't look like that. And so I'm like, meh, I don't know. But I
Yeah.
just need to like, it doesn't really matter what you're making, just make because once you
Right.
get into it, I'm not going to be thinking about that. But I'm just like, it's such a new thing for me. So I'm just stuck.
Sure. Sure. No, that's fair.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's like, I need to figure out what what my thing is, like what makes it fun for me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I just need to do a sandbox. I think I'm honestly going to do like a 10-day tackle of like
Mm-hmm.
just try to make 10 short form videos and see what happens. I bet I'll have like
Fun.
more insight. But right now it's just like I'm so boomer about it that it's like right now it's still such a mountain to climb, and it needs to get to a point where it's not so that at least I'm having fun and then I can go from there.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
think just, yeah, I think when I started integrating it as like, well, we're already gonna do this anyways, and then just really just filming whatever you can gather. Most of our content, I guess it varies, is anywhere from 16 to 20 minutes of footage, and then we spliced it down to 30 seconds. So it's crazy, like that's how much footage you gather, and then you're just only creating like just a small snippet of your experience.
Do you and you just find it in the edit?
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Tom says, I've never been a fan of short form, but turning my big camera sideways and experimenting has actually been super fun. Definitely worth trying new things.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Well, I
Uh,
would bring my camera more around places, but not all the places I go to allow them.
yeah.
That's a reference to Tom's birthday because I really wanted to vlog inside the rink, but they didn't let me bring my
Oh,
camera that day. Then I had to resort to short form. I had to fall back on what I was used to. But I was all
yeah.
in vlog mode that weekend,
That's funny.
which is probably the last vlog I put out actually.
Yeah. We loved your South
So
Africa one.
help me figure out what I need to do to reconsider long form again because I'm on that like I don't know. I want to go back there. There's an audience waiting for us ish there, but I feel like I have the same paralysis. I'm like, well, I don't know what to like. You know what?
Well,
We
so
bought the same lens that you like recommended, where it's, and I was like super excited for it, and I still haven't even attached it.
well,
So
my thing with long form is like security. That's how I see it. Because but I also feel like you what you guys are doing is like is very different from the creators that I know. I feel like you really cracked it in a way where you do have that security, but like everyone that we know that has created shorts, it has not, it's been a fickle audience.
yeah.
It's been like the random, like, you wouldn't even like my content anyway, so why is this getting pushed out to you? They don't
Hmm.
translate over to short to long form. Whereas like for me, I basically took all of 2023 off, but I was still generating revenue because all my freaking long form videos that I made freaking in like 2018, 2019 were still getting views. So like I know it's hard because like we've talked about this so many times. It's like, you know, I feel like you leaned into YouTube lives because so much of that, the value was being able to hang out with you live. Whereas for me, it's like a lot of my stuff is SEO. You know, it is like, here's a question, or here's an answer to your question. And then like, you know, you hit the, well, if you're looking where to go for dinner in the OC, here you go, you know, and like you have that
Yeah.
trust of like, if people like the same food that you do, and like, you know, it's just like a win-win. So I don't know what it would be for you, but the way that I see it and the way that it's proven to, like, you know, be helpful for our life is like, it's such a, you know, it's like it's still been able to help pay the freaking bills even though I'm not creating actively or
Hmm.
consistently. Um
Yeah.
but I know that, you know, that depends on the type of content. And then like, you know, I've been watching a lot of stuff on like, you know, the the state of the creator economy and like influencer stuff, and you know, AI, and just kind of like the future of all this stuff. And um, I feel like there's a sense of like doom and gloom. So it's fun. Like I feel so much more uh, reinvigorated talking to you because like you're having fun. And I feel like everyone who has talked about content creation in a doom and gloom way is clearly not having fun. And like, I feel like
Mhm.
it's not a lately thing. It's like, you know, I feel like there's a lot of decisions that kind of led to that point, and it just so happened that right now, because you know AI is getting so prevalent, uh,
Yeah.
and other things, you know, like I don't know, maybe there are big influencers giving us a bad name or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
but it does kind of feel like there's a shift. You know, I'm sure you can also time it to like, okay, it's been so many years since the pandemic and life changes and all this, but um, so
Yeah, I
yeah, I don't.
actually watched a video recently about how a lot of long form creators are basically throwing in the towel. I forgot what the
Yeah,
main, I just saw the thumbnail and then I thought about it. I was like, well, why is that? Why is that? And then I started reflecting on my own experience and I was like, well, we're one of those that basically abandoned
right.
um, that form of content. And it goes back to like, well, what was it? And I think a lot of it was just what was going on in our lives and what we could actually commit to. Because I didn't like that feeling of like starting up the long form and then see you in the next video, and then the next video is like 8 months later.
Yeah,
Like that's hard for me to stomach because I know sometimes people are like they want to see your content.
excited.
And
Yeah,
so if I can't keep up with it, then I tell them as a concession, well, I can give you a short video of us every day. It's not going to be as lengthy and as intimate as what you probably come to know us, but this is what I can commit to right now, and that's why
yeah,
I'm making this video because I can. Whereas the other ones, I just don't see myself being able to get back on that saddle. So maybe for our upcoming trip, only you can only do short form
short form.
content, and only I can do long form. And it's the same experience, but then obviously the story would be totally different the way the format would be. That might be a fun experiment.
Yeah, I like, see, even just hearing that, like I get nervous. Like it's just so out of my wheelhouse, but I do feel encouraged, and it's just, you know, you never know. It's funny because it's like you never know when, like, I don't know, 6 months from now you might be making your biggest video and you have no idea.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
Homesick Max says very valuable conversation. Visiting restaurants equals visiting music shops and kind of reviewing what's available or not. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean
Mm.
that's an awesome idea. Um, I actually started following someone on Instagram who does vegan recipes that are
Mm.
Asian, because that's been the tricky part for me is like everything is like
Yeah.
freaking pork based, fish sauce based, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But he did just come grocery shopping with me, and it was like
Oh,
my favorite video because like I don't. You could tell me, hey, like here's the soy sauce or whatever, but it was like it
yeah.
was like a vlog but short.
Yeah.
Like we're going through the aisles and he was just like, "Oh, check out all the noodles. Oh, I like this one versus this one because of these reasons." And I was like, "I could do this all day. You should just make more of this stuff." And like,
Right.
a lot of the people who were commenting said the same thing. Um, Ono Coffee says, "I'm still skeptical about shorts on any platform." Mike says, "I feel like long form content helps inject you into your content so your personality has a chance to come through while making your video."
That's true. We've tried to convert some of our Instagram people to say, "Hey, we have a YouTube video if you want to like learn more about like outside of just these short videos." So yeah, that's pretty encouraging to hear. Like maybe that's why that's like a motivation for us to be able to create without feeling like we're messing up the space that we've created on Instagram and just directing people like if you really want to learn more about us or watch our video like learn yeah watch these types of videos. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of different like I never knew what 8 years or whatever how many years it's been since we started creating that there would be so many little everything about everything, right? Like Heather and Tom have always been my go-to to like ask about certain things, but it actually feels kind of odd to hear you ask me questions
Oh,
about
hell
something.
yeah, dude.
So it's kind of like a little different, but also like I'm learning as I go. So I'm no guru or expert myself, but I just know what's been working for us. And I
Yeah.
think just identifying what you can make happen within your own capacity and what you're proud of, I think that's the most important thing.
Kevin says, I totally get the boomer thing. I feel it too, but it's just another new thing you can learn. Yeah.
Kevin feels the boomer thing. He's
Yeah.
doing do blender art with me in my workspace videos that are like those are totally aesthetically very calming and really really interesting to watch. He's not
Yeah.
a boomer, but gets the boomer thing.
You
Not to
guys are
discredit him,
amazing
but
at
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So, okay, to wrap up, because I don't want to take any more of your time.
Oh, sure, sure.
It is February 27th, 2024. How do you feel about like where you guys are at in terms of like, you know, what you've made, what's coming up? And even factoring in, people might be feeling pessimistic about shorts or reels or short form or the influencer creator space in general. How do you guys feel about it? How do you feel about it?
I think if I'm really thinking about our entire journey as creators, I'm probably the proudest of what we've built, and it's not only just from like a monetary standpoint, but just also from a value standpoint. From a
Creative.
Mark and I are equal partners in creating, and we found a rhythm, and we just feel like it hasn't taken over our life in a way where maybe before I felt like there was a lot of stressors involved in creating the way we used to create. So I just feel like the rhythm part of it all has been really gratifying to experience that, and then also just understanding like a year ago to what we've done in a year. Yeah, I'm not looking at just numbers. I'm looking at like are we happy with what we're putting out in
Yeah.
the universe, and we're so happy about that. And
That's
so
awesome,
I
man.
think when I shifted the focus, and I think you guys did a couples table on just like how you know sometimes the YouTube studio you open and it's just right in front of your face, like, and you interpret that as failure or success. Like I think once I removed that a little bit, and now there's
Yeah.
all of these other metrics that are making me feel like overall, am I a success as a brand? And it's not relative to just those vanity metrics, but some other things that you can't measure.
Yeah.
From that lens, I feel very proud about that.
That's awesome. That's like the best thing to hear.
Or
And
just
like
even
how
getting to
else would
come
you be
on
able to
here
do
and
this?
like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think just it's an honor to just come out here and just be even asked to like answer some of these questions where a year ago I was asking someone else about these very same things. Like I was in a group where I was like 8 weeks learning from like influencers that had 1 million, and it made me realize like the 1 million subscriber person has just as much value as the 22,000 person. We all have a perspective. We all have a way to share our story, create more, do all that Heather preaches all the time. So I'm just, yeah, I'm just happy that I even get to do this. Like I never thought I would be able to do this
I
to begin
freaking
with.
love that,
So it's
man.
really great to do that. I'm not happy that I look like Zordon from Power Rangers though. Like, I don't think this is on brand, Heather. I'm
Well,
so
I was like,
sorry.
I
Like
don't know if
this
it's
this
me because our internet is like crappy, but I think
No, you've been
I
crystal clear the whole
yeah.
time. I look like I'm about to like get like sucked up into that little pipe that he lives in or whatever. Um
Okay, I have a last question. I promise this will be the last. But for
okay, yeah.
anyone
No,
who's trying to, get into short form, like what would be your tips there? For someone who wants to start today, or someone who's like me, who's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like you've convinced me. What should I keep in mind?
Um, yeah, I think sometimes it is helpful to have a storyboard in your head. You don't need to know exactly every element, but it's helpful to understand like what am I when I create this short and someone watches it, what do I want them to get away from it? And then that will help you figure out the shots that you need to get. Albeit those will all end up being like little 5-second clips that will end up being 16 minutes, but at least you have some of direction because I think near the beginning I was, at fault of doing this. I was just recording everything without knowing how am I going to use this. Yesterday, I had a very clear directive on what we needed to showcase, what would be the first 2 seconds of the video, what would be the last 2 seconds of the video. And it made my life a lot easier. I was like, oh, I can eat popcorn, just watch the movie and not even think about anything. So
Wow.
having a plan helps a lot. I think I was very spontaneous, which is kind of where I think me and Mark are a good blend because I'm too spontaneous and he's a little bit more structured. So I think we found a way to blend it a little bit more. So I think that will help you end up creating better is having some forethought and thinking about what it is. And then the second part, which is kind of counterintuitive to what I just said, is just try it, just do it. Like don't even overthink it. Just do it if that takes you a few times before you get to that planning stage. But
Right.
you're going to keep convincing yourself not to do it until you finally do it. So that would be
Right.
my second tip is just jump in there, just create more, and then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and you can explore other avenues. But I never thought I would be creating short form ever.
Yeah. It
I
didn't
hated
exist.
portrait
It wasn't even
videos.
a
It didn't
thing.
exist. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if you know about this, but now they're asking you to do landscape on portrait mode videos. I was like, what are you going to ask us to do next?
Are you serious?
Yeah, on TikTok. So they're trying to get people to do that, and the theory is they're going to try to put ads in the black spots. So as you're watching a video, then an ad can come so they can monetize it. So they're pushing out more videos where it's
That
landscape. And I was like, but I just learned how to do this way. Now you're making me go back. So that's why it's like a rat race. And you're like, what do I do? What do I change? But just be yourself and just do it
if you're having
while it's
fun, it doesn't even
fun. And
matter. Yeah.
yeah, because you're going to keep chasing it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Anyways,
Thanks, James.
of course, anytime.
Where can people find you?
My Instagram is James Van Lay. I think whether might
It's in
have
the
like a
description. Yeah.
overlay of something. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then on YouTube, we're James and
It's
Mark.
James and Mark. Yeah.
And then on Instagram, James and Mark. The other tip I would give is if you know what your handle is, make them all the same on all three. But I didn't know. I just decided to be on. Yeah. So.
It's all good. We have link in bio now and all that, so it's fine.
Oh, right.
All
All
right,
right.
cool. Thank you, James.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
See ya.